everybody, what's happening? So last time I did I rerouted the battery isolator, and this time I finally have enough wiring stuff to start wiring this thing up. So I'm gonna get started on that. But you need to be aware that when you're doing electrical stuff, there is the potential that you could have a short or something's not grounded right or something, and you could set your whole van on fire. It only takes 0.1 to 0.2 amps to kill you, but there's not enough voltage in a 12-volt battery to do that. So you're not really at risk of being electrocuted as far as I'm aware. But you really need to understand electrical stuff before you really dive into this, and don't use this video as the only one that you watch for wiring up your van. Some really good places to look are like boat wiring. There's a lot of good information online about wiring up boats. So yeah, just be safe and do your research and be completely confident in what you're doing. There's tons and tons of forums you can go to, you can join and ask questions, and there's tons of experts on there. If I mess up anything in here, I'm sure someone will correct me in the comment section, so make sure you check out the comment section as well, and drop me a comment, let me know what you think about this, if this helped you out at all. I learned everything I know from forums and from YouTube and from blogs and stuff. I took a couple electrical classes when I was trying to get into the HVAC stuff back in the day, but I'm not an expert electrician or anything, so there's my disclaimer. Let's get to work. Okay, so I decided the battery's gonna go right here, and I noticed it does slide around quite a bit on this laminate floor when I drive around, so I'm actually gonna get a rubberized mat for the ground that you put like in drawers and stuff, and I'm gonna put that under here, and I think the weight of this on top of it will prevent it from moving around. But I also have this adjustable strap. It's actually made for motorcycles, and it has a little piece of bungee on it, and I'm just gonna loop this thing around, and that'll hold it in place pretty well, I think. So the order of operation here is connect everything positive to the battery, and the very last thing I'm gonna do is attach the grounds to the battery, which means that I can attach the positive and the negative to everything going to the fuse panel, the ceiling fan, the lights, the auxiliary cigarette adapters, everything else that I have wired up to the battery. As long as the battery's ungrounded, I'm safe. There's no power to it. Attaching the ground completes the connection, and then it's energized and there's power going through it. So right now I'm attaching this fuse from my battery to my power inverter. If I can get this nut off. Come on, little nut. Come on. Urgh. Oh, and by the way, I put my battery here because it's right over the axle, and it might be purely theoretical, but before I had it back in the very back corner, and when I hit the brakes, it might be because my brakes are shot, but the front end, it would, like, the van wouldn't, like, nose forward, it would, like, come forward at an angle and put more pressure on one side, and I think that that's because this battery was in the back corner and it's so heavy. So my thought is that by putting it directly over the axle, my weight distribution will be much better, and that will give me better handling and braking, and overall a safer ride. Alright, so I cut my battery isolator wire here, and I stripped the insulator off the end, and this is my new crimp tool. I got this from Amazon. It was pretty cheap. I tested it out a few times. It works really great. You just stick the fitting in and have the hammer drop down here. It seems to work best if you put it as close to the end as possible. And then you just stick the wire into the fitting, like so. You gotta hold it in though, which is the thing. It's really hard to do at this angle. Luckily, the rest of these will be able to be done outside of the van. And you can either use a hammer and whack this thing down, or you can put it in a vise. Looks good enough. Yep, there we go. It's on there real good, not coming off. So now I'm going to get some shrink wrap or something to go over this to cover this exposed metal part. Okay, so I thought it was recording that whole time, but I guess it wasn't. Basically, I just put another fuse a fuse right next to the battery for the battery isolator, and that thing is wired up now, at least the positive end. I still got to run a ground. Yeah, so now there is a fuse both under the hood of the battery isolator, right next to the isolator, and there's one right next to the battery, so I'm like double protected. That might be a little overkill, but with that much amperage and stuff, if something happened to this wire, it could cause a pretty big problem. So I feel better with that there. And by the way, I did put a grommet in there where the wire went into the firewall. One came with this wiring kit that I got. So yeah, now that the positive's attached to that, the positive's attached to the battery. I always forget what this thing's called somehow. The inverter, the power inverter. So yeah, I'm gonna show you how I wire up the 12-volt thing. Alright, so there are three parts to this thing. There's the two cigarette adapters and the single USB. So what I'm going to do is just wire these up in series with these butt connectors, or female, whatever you call it. I don't care what things are called, man, to be honest with you. I don't know. These female connectors just fit right over the top, and they kind of snap into place nice and strong. So I've got some 16 gauge wire here, which is plenty for the amount of amps I use. Remember that you're selecting the wire size for the amount of amps that the particular device is going to use, and you select your fuse based on that. So I'm going to start off the first one here. I'm just going to spin the wire around, grab this guy like this. Remember which one is 16. And then I'm going to grab, where's my crimper tool? There it is. And then I've got my little crimper tool here. Just going to squeeze that into place. Double check it. We're good. Alright, so I'm going to start on this end because I know the wire is going to come off this way. So I'm going to stick this guy on here. If I can get it in. There we go. And then I'm going to cut this one about right here. Where's my snippers? And cut this one about right here. And I've got this really nice wire strippers here. So I'm going to strip that one. And then I'm going to strip the end off of this. Oh, I'll go a little farther on that one. And then I'm going to twist these together. Put them in here. Cool. And now I'll just crimp this guy down. I don't know why it keeps sliding down. Yeah, held on good though. Wow, these fit on here nice and tight. Jeez. There we go. And then do the same thing over here. And then I'll do the same thing for the grounds and just leave this wire nice and long. I'm going to put this up under the kind of little bench thing, not bench, but little table thing that I have next to the fridge. And then run this wire all the way back to the fridge, or to the fuse panel. Alright, so I have my ground cable to my battery up here in clips. I just put it exactly the way I'm going to end up wanting it. And it goes all the way to back there. So I was just holding it in place here. Now I'm going to disconnect it and pull it out and put a fitting on the end. Alright, so the positive wire is now totally hooked up to the auxiliary battery. The only thing I need to do to be able to use the power inverter and the battery isolator is hook up a ground for the chassis of the power inverter to the frame, and hook up the grounds from the power inverter to the battery, and from the battery to the frame. So that's totally set up. Now I'm gonna hook up my lighting. I got these fairy lights in, and the deal is these things have a 5-volt in. I'm using 12 volts, so I'm gonna have to figure out a resistor or some kind of thing to make my input 5 volts to go to this to power this. But I'll figure that out. I'm gonna set up these lights, and I'm gonna use my old LED strips underneath. The fairy lights are gonna go up above. But the old LED strips that I have are going to go down below, so that at night, if I want to see what's inside of the cabinets, or I want to see below, I just want to add some ambience. I can set it on red, and it would be really cool to have like nice red glow under everything. Or I can set it on white to be able to see everything really easily, or whatever. I'll have 2 different lighting options that way. And then later on, I'm going to get a some kind of lantern that is easy to take in and out, because these fairy lights are not very bright. I will not be able to hook these up to the van today unless I go to Radio Shack and figure out what I need to do to convert 12 volts to 5 volts. But I do got to film my Q&A tonight. It's actually Wednesday today here. You're probably watching this on Friday if you're watching it when it first came out. But yeah, so I'm going to hook these fairy lights up and see how that works. Okay, so both of these lights have a remote, and I'm going to end up putting these remotes right here so that they're accessible at night when the bed's all the way pulled out. And when I open the door to get in, I usually get in through this side door. I can just turn on the lights and hop in, or I can hop in and close the door and just press the button. Eventually, I'll get used to exactly where the buttons are, and I won't even have to think about it anymore. That's the way it was before. So they both have these little... let me unplug this real quick. They both have these little IR boxes, which have a little remote sensor. I'm going to mount these just on the other side of here and have the remote sensor stick through the bottom here. And by the way, this is where I mounted my solar controller. So the little remote IR thing is going to stick through here so that when the remote switch is mounted on here, and I'll mount it with Velcro so I can remove it if I want to, but I'll end up never removing it. I'll just be able to press the button and it'll be able to read easily. And that'll be that. I'm kind of thinking now that this old... the old strip I have, the sticky part is totally gone. I could probably stick this on with glue, but I don't know. I might just buy another one. I also cut this one down much shorter than it was originally, so I'm still kind of thinking about that. But I'll figure out how to install the fairy lights now so I can use it tonight. Okay, so this is maximum brightness on these fairy lights, and they've got a bunch of different settings. They've got some real cool ones on here, like this... check out this 5-second like pulsing. This would be really nice to chill out to at night, just meditate and have like this like pulsing like this. This is sick. I dig this. They're not that bright. But one thing is, before I always had my lights on low. I never had them any brighter than this, unless I was looking for something. So that's where the other part comes in of having a lamp and having the LED lights running around like underneath the bed, inside these cabinets, underneath this part, maybe even down in here, so that I can turn those on and be able to see where things are at if I need to look for something. But I think these are actually going to be plenty bright for the way it is. I need to figure out a way to fix this up here somewhere. I might put a screw in here and wrap it around or something. But this is great. This is awesome. They are plugged into the wall right now. They're not plugged into my battery yet, but I will get there. I need to run and get a cable for the ground on the amp for the body of the battery isolator, and also see if Walmart has more of those LED strips with adhesive on them. See how much they are. If they're only like $10 for 10 feet or 20 feet or something, then that'll be awesome. I'll just do that. If not, I'll have to figure out a new way to adhere the back of the LED strips to underneath all this stuff. So yeah, woo! All right, so I just got back from Car Toys. I got my 8-gauge cable here. Now this wire is actually 2 wires. This goes to my amp, to the ground of my amp. This goes to the chassis ground on my power inverter, and then the end goes to the body of the van. So I'm actually going to completely install this right now, and I'm going to wire up the end of the ground that goes to the battery up to the frame, just so that I don't have to mess with this area anymore. But I'm going to leave the battery disconnected for now while I'm still working on everything. There's going to be another part to this. Next time I'll wire up, hopefully, these fairy lights, which by the way are absolutely amazing. And I think they're going to be bright enough for me because I like it dimming here at night when I have lights on anyway. Anyway, I'll wire these up, and I'll wire up the fans and all the other stuff up to the fuse panel. But for now, thank you so much for watching, guys. Love yourself. Woo!